All right, everyone, let's talk about the 4 big systemic mycoses. I know, these can be a real headache on exams, but stick with me. By the end of this, you're going to know exactly how to tell them apart. We're going to hit all the high-yield facts you need for test day.
Okay, so here's our game plan. It's a pretty straightforward roadmap to nail these tricky fungi. We're going to walk through each one step by step, hitting those key facts, and then we'll pull it all together at the end with a nice comparison chart for that quick-fire recall you need.
First things first, let's lock in the one core concept that ties all 4 of these fungi together. Seriously, if you get this one rule down, you're already halfway to mastering them.
And here it is. The phrase you absolutely have to remember is yeast in the heat, mold in the cold. It's that simple, and it's the key to everything. Out there in the environment, right, at about 25 degrees Celsius, they're a mold. But the second they get inside our bodies, at a cozy 37 degrees, boom, they transform into yeast. And that is their pathogenic form.
Okay, with that foundation laid, let's jump into our first fungus, Histoplasma capsulatum. You might also hear it called Darling's disease. This one's a real classic, and its story always begins in a very specific type of place.
So for your exam, you're going to want this mnemonic burned into your brain. Historians explored caves with birds and bats in Ohio. This little phrase gives you everything. It tells you the location, the Ohio and Mississippi River valleys, and it tells you the source, soil that's full of bird or bat droppings, guano. So when you get a question, picture someone who's been spelunking in a cave or maybe cleaning out an old chicken coop. That's your classic histo patient.
So how does it actually make you sick? Well, think of it as a story of disguise and escape. First, you breathe in the tiny spores. Then, and this is the really clever part, they get eaten by your alveolar macrophages, the very cells that are supposed to destroy invaders. But instead of dying, the spores transform into yeast right inside the macrophage. They use it as a Trojan horse, a perfect hiding place to multiply and then spread all over the body.
And this brings us to your #1 diagnostic buzzword. Pay attention to this. When you're looking at a histology slide, if you see tiny oval yeast cells hiding within the macrophages, that's it. That is your money shot for histoplasmosis. It's their small size and that intracellular location that gives it away every single time.
Treatment-wise, it's pretty straightforward. It all depends on how sick the patient is. If it's a severe disseminated case, you're going to bring out the big guns, Amphotericin B. But for those milder or chronic cases, itraconazole is usually all you need.
All right, 1 down, 3 to go. Next up, we've got Blastomyces dermatitidis. And with blasto, it's all about what it looks like under the microscope. Its appearance is super distinctive, so let's see what makes it pop.
Now, the first thing you've got to notice is the geography. See how it overlaps with histo? It's also found in the Ohio and Mississippi River valleys. And that's exactly why you can't rely on location alone. It makes spotting the difference on that microscope slide absolutely critical for getting the right diagnosis.
And here is that key difference. While histo has those tiny, narrow buds, blasto is the complete opposite. It's a big, thick-walled yeast with a single, broad-based bud. I mean, it's so broad it almost looks like one cell is just sitting right on top of the other, making this classic figure of 8 shape. If you see that, it's a dead giveaway. You're looking at blasto.
So here's a huge clinical pearl for you. Like the others, it starts in the lungs. But blasto loves to go to the skin. That's its favorite place to spread, causing these really nasty verrucous or ulcerative lesions. And hey, look at the treatment. Notice a pattern? It's exactly the same as histo. Amphotericin B for severe, itraconazole for mild. Easy to remember.
Okay, let's head west for our 3rd fungus, Coccidioides. Now, this one is a whole different ballgame. It's got a unique structure, a totally different location, a completely different story.
When you hear Coccidioides, I want you to immediately picture the desert. Think dust storms, think Arizona, California, think valley fever. We're shifting our geography completely to the southwestern US. And the thing you breathe in isn't just a spore, it's this unique barrel-shaped particle called an arthroconidia, just waiting in the soil to get kicked up by the wind.
And on a histology slide, oh man, it's a massive giveaway. You can forget everything we just said about budding. Coccidioides doesn't do that. Instead, it forms these huge, thick-walled sacs called spherules, and these spherules are packed full of tiny little endospores. Eventually, the spherule bursts open and releases them all, and the cycle starts again. It's a totally different way of doing business.
Now here's a really important safety warning, especially for the lab folks. You have to be extremely careful when culturing this fungus. The mold form is highly infectious, so it requires special biosafety precautions. As for treatment, we're usually looking at triazoles like itraconazole, but just like the others, we'll pull out Amphotericin B if things get really bad. All right, time for our last stop. Our final fungus takes us all the way down to South America. And guess what? It's got another one of those can't-miss-it microscopic looks.
This is a huge exam tip. If you see a question and the patient is from South America, especially Brazil, your brain should be screaming Coccidioides. The geography is almost always the biggest clue they'll give you for this one.
And you'll see why it's so famous when you look at it under the microscope. It's just beautiful, in a weird medical way. You've got this large central yeast, but instead of just one bud, it's covered in multiple buds all around the outside. The whole thing looks just like a captain's or a pilot's steering wheel. I mean, once you see it, you will never, ever forget it.
So who gets this? Well, the classic patient is an older man, he's from South America, and he comes in with these painful sores in his mouth or really swollen lymph nodes in his neck. That's the textbook presentation. And for treatment, well, you know the drill by now. Itraconazole is your standard go-to, and Amphotericin B is on standby for the really severe infections.
Okay, we've gone through all four. Now it's time to put it all together. This next slide, this is your money slide. This is the one you screenshot, you print out, you tape to your mirror. This is your final exam quick revision.
Look at this. We've boiled everything down to the most essential, high-yield facts. If you're cramming, focus on two columns, the microscopic buzzword and the endemic region. Honestly, if you can just lock in those two pieces of information for each fungus, you're going to be able to answer almost any question they throw at you. That's how you score the points.
So to wrap it all up, let's do a quick thought experiment. A patient comes in, they've got a cough, and they tell you they just got back from exploring some caves in Ohio. What fungus is at the top of your list? And more importantly, what's the one key feature you're going to be searching for under the microscope to confirm it? See, it's that process, linking the story, the location, and the buzzword, that's going to help you crush these questions on exam day.